Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of Ask the Anabolic Doc, starring Dr. Thomas O'Connor and brought to you by his websites anabolicdoc.com and metabolicdoc.com, and that's where you can buy his new book, America on Steroids, A Time to Heal, which I'm about halfway through, and it's a really good read. You don't have to be a doctor yourself to understand it. I like the fact that Tom, you sort of put everything in layman's terms so guys like me can follow along without either getting confused or fall asleep.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you're reading it and enjoying it.
And we're getting a great response to the show. I want to commend you for doing this show. And it's providing a resource, I think, to a lot of guys out there on these boards that, you know, they've really had no one to talk to. Their general practitioner doesn't know a lot about this subject, doesn't want to know a lot about this subject. As you said, these guys are busy. They're seeing 40 patients a day. I get it. And they just don't know who to ask and don't know where to turn. And, you know, you're here for them. That's an amazing thing. So thank you, sir.
That's what it's all about.
Okay. Well, we got some very detailed questions. As we were just saying before we started recording, we have some pretty bright people posting here. I think a lot of them work in the medical field in one aspect or another themselves based on the details I'm seeing here. So if you want to get right into it, a gentleman who calls himself GH Gut, hopefully not because he has one, but he says, why would a 45-year-old man, 195 pounds, on 200 milligrams testosterone cypionate and 200 milligrams nandrolone have high creatine kinase levels? And the value he puts there is 2497. Creatinine levels also elevated, 1.37. Visited endocrinologist last week. She was alarmed, to put it mildly. TRT doctor says, don't worry, your kidney function is just a little elevated. We're watching it. Endocrinologist ordered a thyroid scan to see if that could be a culprit. Waiting for the scan. Thanks. So yeah, high creatine kinase levels, creatinine levels elevated. Yeah, is this something you see in your practice a lot?
Yes, I do. So here we go. This is what I say back in the old day. Put the thinking caps on. So this is complicated stuff. This is internal medicine. This involves renal physiology, internal medicine, musculoskeletal physiology, and rheumatology and autoimmune disease. Okay, strap in. So there's really two things going on here. One is he's obviously a 95-pound man. He's using steroids. He's using a considerable amount, 200 milligrams of testosterone cypionate plus decadrobolin, right? Nandrolone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So about 400 milligrams a week, right?
Yeah, it's a bikini girl dose, but okay.
Yeah. It's that. First of all, that itself, is Ron. With you and I, we're veterans. We've been around this industry for decades.
Yeah.
Like doctors just don't. There's no blessing. I'm just telling facts of what they are.
Right.
Doctors don't know. They don't know what testosterone. They don't know the various types of common esters of testosterone. They don't know what Succinon 250 is.
Right.
They don't know nandrolone decanate. They don't know propionate. They don't know the various forms of tren. I mean, it's very interesting, isn't it? So, understanding a lexicon and understanding the data, isn't that important, though?
Yeah.
So a doctor, first of all, is going to think, oh, these issues are happening right off the bat from those drugs. And the answer to that is wrong. No.
Wow.
Well, in part, directly, then you get into this indirect and directly, not to mention it's an intramuscular injection. Is that raising CK levels? Let's backfill. So, two questions. He's on steroids levels, basically, including testosterone cypionate, which certainly on that dose could be upper limit normal for some men, or what's called TRT doses. Well, let's keep going. So he's got creatinine, that's part of renal function on the labs. That's a comprehensive metabolic or a basic metabolic. You're looking every day. Doctors like us, we're reading CBCs, comprehensive metabolic, and we're reading. It's an indirect measurement of your renal function. Creatinine.
Yeah.
And it's just a basic number. And there's variables on it as far as if you have muscle mass, if you're African American. So there's different degrees on a reference range. So his 1.37 is across the board. It depends on what reference range lab you went to, but maybe he's just a 2.2 over. But when I eyeball this, I don't know his clinical case. This is why it's so important. But basically, what I think typically a man, 45-year-old man, is he in kidney failure does that indicate kidney failure? The answer is gambling in Vegas? No. That's a normal, men that have muscle tissue, with or without steroids, depending on their genetics, their hydration status, what lab they went to, you're going to see a creatinine level like that all the time.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting that some doctors will see that, and I'm being very careful not to disparage and disrespect these caregivers.
Right.
I happen to be an expert in this. I've been doing this for, my Lord, almost 20 years. I mean, and they don't. They're very good doctors. What do I know about delivering babies? I'm not a gynecologist or obstetrician.
I still trust him in a jam, but
okay. But if you have to, give me a call. You're in Boston, okay? Yeah. So the truth is, and this is an endocrinologist, and this doctor is an expert in diabetes. Just by me knowing it's America, endocrinology, there's two things they do better than me: diabetes and thyroid. But depending on the specialist of endocrinology, who this endocrinologist is, they may or may not know so much about testosterone and about steroids. I'm being humble saying that maybe, I don't think, boy, I'm arrogant. There's no doctor that knows more than me about testosterone because it's my day job.
Yeah.
Steroids and testosterone, I live, sleep, eat, and enjoy the stuff. So that's all I do. And it's humbling, and you never know it all, but I do the same thing over and over. All I do is take care of people on androgens now.
Yeah.
So let's go back to internal medicine. His creatinine's fine. That's fine. Hope you're not hypertensive. Hope your renal function is fine. Let's go to the CK. So the elevated creatinine level, 1.37, and that's why his TRT doctor said, don't worry about your function because it's an internist probably, and he says, your kidney function's fine, but let's go to the CK. So it's just in a little elevated, the endocrinologist. So let's get back to the CK. Now, put the thinking cap on. This creatinine kinase is it's an enzyme that's housed mainly in skeletal muscle tissue, and it's in the mitochondrial region. And classically, it relates to a dangerous condition called rhabdomyolysis.
Oh, yeah.
Rhabdo. So when you're an EMT, a nurse, paramedic, fireman in the streets, and you go to a call where you have a dear little old lady found on the floor for 12 hours or maybe a day or two, and she's still alive, and she's laying on her side and she couldn't get up and she's dehydrated, she's going to be, one thing they're going to think of is get the IV lines, full bore, hit her with fluid, bring her in, and what do we measure when she hits the ER? CK. We're checking to see if she's in acute renal failure from poisoning from myoglobin that's spilling out from her muscles and going to be toxic to the kidney. Okay, that's called rhabdomyolysis. Now let's back up. So it's a number game. That number, to be in rhabdo, first of all, you're not feeling good. So how does this man feel? How do you feel, man? Are you tired? Do you feel like crap? If you read about this, you'll see. So if his CKs are elevated over 10,000 or so, he's not feeling good. That's rhabdo. So he's 2,500, right? Yeah. So how many guys are walking around feeling great or after training hard? So you can see the whole trick of this question is, who is he? What does he do? Is he feeling good? Is he just walking around? Did he just do legs? Ronnie Coleman's CK after lightweight baby? After squatting, what did Ronnie do? 800 for reps? Ronnie CK? African Americans are going to have higher CK levels. I researched this. I mean, no one's going to know all these numbers if you're a savant off the top of your head. Yeah. A black man can go up to about 1,200. That's normal. A Caucasian man, this is all out of up-to-date, by the way, reference. Yeah. A white man, 500. So this guy's elevated, but those are upper limit normal levels. After leg day or a car accident, and you're sore and you're achy, that's not rhabdomyolysis. That's an elevated CK. So it's an asymptomatic elevation of creatine kinase. That's how you phrase this question. And the next step is, but for the education for the audience, to research that, you have to see the clinical side. And then the next step would be, can a drug cause this? And again, how does he feel clinically? But again, beyond the obvious pieces, what conditions could he have? Drug-induced, there are endocrinopathies, and his doctor is brilliant. They're looking at the thyroid. What did I tell you? They're experts in diabetes. Sorry, it's a long day. Yeah. They're experts in diabetes and thyroid. It is true that asymptomatic hypothyroid states can lead to elevations of creatine kinase.
I was told long ago, because every time I've had blood work done, my CK levels have been always at least slightly elevated. I've been told that as a hard training bodybuilder, you should probably take a week off from the gym before you get your blood work done to give you a more normal value to see where you're really at.
72 hours.
72 hours, okay.
But that very good. But you're right. So these how important is that to understand that? But I'll be honest, I see CKs, and why do you check? We don't routinely or randomly check CK. We're checking, this is so important. I love these questions. We check CKs because for a common example, if you're a person and you're on a statin drug to protect your heart, hypercholesterolemic drug, and this drug is a statin drug, it's classic that it can cause myositis and muscle damage. It rarely can cause rhabdomyolysis. So but apart from the rhabdo, I had a truck driver, a great guy. Of course, he was on steroids. I got him off steroids. His cholesterol LDL cholesterols were almost 300. It's just genetic. He was a big guy. He was just like, Doc, I'm trying to eat. He was doing paleo, a lot of red meat. Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. And he had some genetics for family history. So I said to him, sir, let's wean you down. Let's get you on some base testosterone. I did my anabolic recovery. Yeah. And then I said, sir, let's deal with your heart. And he was about 30 something. And he goes, Doc, yeah, we were careful. I started him on a statin. About 2 weeks later, I got a call from the emergency room. He was driving his truck and he crashed because he said that, Doc, I had cramps, he said. My forearms were cramping. Then his abdomen cramped and he went forward and he crashed the truck. They thought he had a heart attack. Rhabdomyolysis. Wow. What a case. His CK's 18,000 or 20,000. Wow. I caused that. I did that to him because I gave him a statin drug. My goodness. How rare is it though? I live on a statin drug. Yeah. I'm on 20 milligrams of rovastatin. Can I do it for you? Sure. The right bicep. My muscles break. You know why I do it, Ron? Because I'm scared about having a heart attack. Okay. And it's not slowing me down. Yeah. I'm going to bench with my little bench band on, probably about 420, maybe tonight or tomorrow night. Anyway, who cares? You know what? The truth is this. So drug-induced elevations of CK, yes. Endocrine issues, like hypothyroidism. But is he feeling sluggish and tired? And what's his TSH? So that doctor is very smart. She knows the whole differential diagnosis, and she's going to check, or this endocrinologist is going to check. And what else? You know what? If he did an intermuscular injection, so when you read on elevations of CK, if you damage the muscle just from an intermuscular injection, that can cause the CK to go up. Maybe on top of, imagine this, he's got some genetics, and some different genetics, some men, you can't say they have musculoskeletal, they have muscle muscle damage. Yeah. There are genetics on this. You got to be careful. It's just so rare, though. But imagine the guy's training hard and he's doing steroids or testosterone, like you said, and he's injecting. That's enough right there to elevate his CK. I'll bet you they're going to find nothing wrong. So, sir, I'm not your doctor. I can't give medical advice. It seems like you have great doctors, but they're probably going to come up with nothing. Let's talk about show off. Let's talk about rare things. Yeah. polymyositis and dermatomer. So these are autoimmune conditions, rare. If you do read across the board on these things, you'll see someone is achy, they feel terrible. It seems like a trauma, or they've taken the statin drugs and they're achy and they just can't walk well. They're really like they have a flu-like symptom.
Yeah.
And that's how it's diagnosed. You're going to measure, you're going to do what's called, it's basically a neurologic, it's a musculoskeletal neurologic mixed with like a rheumatologic workup. That's what that, and they throw that, we just check everything. ANAs, we check for autoimmune disease, which this in part essentially is. We check CKs, we do the comprehensive metabolic, we look at everything, and we start teasing out, we start differentially diagnosing, cleaning up with a machete. This is this is that, and you go through the jungle. And this guy's going to probably end up with, he's muscular, he's very muscular, he trained hard, and he's doing intramuscular injections. Nothing, he has nothing wrong.
Great. Okay, we got some fertility questions.
Let's go.
Okay, Paradox, he is some sort of medical professional, I know that. He says there are rumors with some successful outcomes, according to their word, of these fertility protocols where people who are on high-level testosterone are able to impregnate women via high dosages of PCT. Are there other factors to consider when accounting for the production of viable sperm? If they are indeed successful, can you provide the physiological process as how this is possible, despite effectively shutting down the production of natural testosterone and theoretically production of sperm? Are the PCTs somehow superseding the body's need to shut down sperm production?
God, I love the way these questions, they're very wordy. I mean, let's read, and then he goes into part 2 and third. So, okay, here's the bottom line. Let's just make it simple, Rob.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make it simple. Let's put the bro science hats on.
Okay, I'm down.
Okay. Okay, I mean, it's the same thing. Hold on, I got a book here for you. I got a book, folks.
Oh boy. Anabolics.
I got a page for you.
Oh.
Page 111.
What's that tell you? Something about PCT.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I will reference an incredible doctor named Michael Scally. You ever hear of him?
I think you've mentioned him.
Michael Scally's really the father. He's the grandfather of Anabolic Doc. He's in Texas, and he's the one that Bill Llewellyn references because he's done actually whatever legitimacy there was of studies. He's actually done some studies with his own patients using steroids and real PCT. And come on, isn't it amazing that we actually haven't studied this further than this dungeon underground of?
It's kind of disappointing to me that we haven't actually.
Very disappointing.
It's such a taboo thing for even the medical industry is afraid to go near it.
So the truth, let's go into it. So the man's on steroids, and we can globally look at it. Steroid using man, different esters, testosterone, using other drugs, equipoise, oral steroids, doing it for periods of time, and then so when you're on, when you take an exogenous androgen into your body, your pituitary gland and your hypothalamus are going to basically detect it and are very sensitive, and they're going to shut down, right?
Yeah.
The signal that goes down to the gonads is interrupted, and your gonads go to sleep. Your gonads.
This is why they shrink, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Your testicles will atrophy because luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone are not stimulating. Don't let the word stimulating fool you. So, and luteinizing hormone, they're trophic. In addition, they're keeping it awake. They're keeping it function. They're maintaining testosterone levels on a circadian rhythm, which are basically oscillating through the day, peaking in the morning, and then going down at night. But normal testosterone for a man, this is a normal man. And then he's producing X amount of sperm. And it's a signal system where it's so tight to the top brain, which is stuff that we don't understand yet. Clearly, there's a lot more going on than just hypothalamus pituitary gonad axis. But we have to go back we have to grab onto something to start. So when you introduce steroids in that cycle, like last week's show, I had the diagram. You disconnect your brain from your gonads. No one's gonna. Everyone understands that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so beyond that, this guy goes into what? How do you get fertile? Is that the question? Is that the question? Well, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, it went on. He was wondering how somebody who's on steroids would still be able to impregnate a woman. I guess that's really what it boils down to.
Here we go. Okay, so all gamble. You'll see over time. I say the same thing over and over. I hope I don't bore people. I think when you're a good doctor, you do the same thing over and over because that's your bread and butter.
Right.
And then what you do is you personalize it to the individual person.
Yeah.
And you see the variations of that. So you're on steroids. Your sperm count is going to be low if you're 19 years old or 23 versus 53.
Yeah.
If you're on your first cycle of steroids versus your 200th cycle, if you're on a very low dose of testosterone versus a suppressive dose, if you're on tren versus not tren. I mean, so when you're young and you're on steroids, you're infertile, you're shooting blanks. We have data where we came very close in the FDA clearing testosterone derivative for oral contraception for men.
Right.
They shut it down for political reasons. We're not going to go into it. Because when women take oral contraceptive pills or injections, what does it do, Ron? It interrupts their cycle.
Yeah.
They don't ovulate. Don't you know it's 99.9% effective?
Yeah.
So men using androgens, they're basically, depending on the details, they're taking their sperm and their fertility down. Okay, if you do one shot, you're going to be super fertile for the next 2 weeks. I learned years ago that in the old country, even here in this country, the poor man's fertility medicine before you use Clomid and HCG was a big shot of cypionate in the butt.
Really?
Yes. So initially, your sperm goes super high.
Huh.
And then when it downregulates and when you cut off this because you're basically flooding the cells in the testicles with testosterone. And that initially, I'm not an expert on this fertility. I'm not a fertility urologist. I'm an internist.
Yeah. Right.
It's pretty easy. The data's, no one's going to argue this. The fertility goes up. Now, think about it. You're 25 years old, 35, 40, healthy man. You're going on and off steroids. Your brain is trying to keep everything straight. So the guys get fertile. But typically, when you're on steroids long enough, you're shutting down your system. You have to use Clomid. You have to use these drugs. You have to use selective estrogen receptor modulators, Clomid, and or HCG. Now, the question for this guy is, great question. But I guess when I've answered this question 10,000 times in my office, I have to be, otherwise I'm falling asleep. So you're going to be essentially shut down. It's so easy for men. Again, ethically easy, probably the wrong word. Men take steroids. They get Clomid and more often HCG, and they take it, and they use it, and they get fertile because the body fights so hard for a healthy young man to maintain homeostasis. Your body is trying to maintain that, but it shuts it down. But it comes back. So when I have men that are on steroids, they come to me, I hug them, I listen to their story, I either wean them off, we use Clomid, which I don't like Clomid much anymore, I like HCG, and then if men are on, they end up getting on fixed doses of TRT, right, Ron?
Yeah.
They end up saying, Doc, I've shut my brain down, we're diagnosing it, we've already made the decision. They're on TRT. They come to me on TRT, and then he's 30 or 40. A lot of guys when they're older, I go, do you really want to have another kid? So beyond that, they've told me, Doc, I came off test, I blasted some HCG, and here are my 3 kids. It's so simple. You don't need HMG. And there's 2 other drugs called Brevel and Overdrill. Check out and see what those are. Those are recombinantly produced. Basically derivatives of LH and FSH that are very expensive that are unnecessary. Most men just do HCG and some Clomid, and not to mention, some of the Novadex. I mean, that classic cycle that we could look at.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant to understand. You start off with HCG to sensitize the testicles to get your levels up higher, and then you ease in the anti-estrogen medications, right? One the Clomid, because you're desensitizing, and then you want to maintain some kind of a block up in the brain. So in the end, you're taking the training wheels off, and then the man's natural production comes. This is great theoretically. Does it work? Man per man. Oh, as they're doing it, they're probably fertile. So what men do when they're on steroids, they either just first of all, coming on and off steroids, remember, you're 25, 35, Ronnie, I don't know about Ronnie, when some men are just so healthy and fertile, they miss an injection, or they take a big injection, and all you need is one sperm. Do you realize when you're fertile? Ron?
Yeah.
It's being infertile is less than 15 million sperm per milliliter. Do you know when you ejaculate, you're a healthy man? It's like 80 million sperm. You need one. So it's the mathematics is freaky, but the reality is, guys use HCG and Clomid and less, the Novadex, and if they do come on and off, they're fertile. They may not feel good because their testosterone and their brains are off, but you know what? They're fertile, and that's why bodybuilders and men on steroids. It takes a lot, and I'm just being honest. It takes a lot to really shut the fertility down.
So I want to back up with a question. Then, why was that testosterone being considered for male birth control, if that's the case?
Because if you if you take these little teeny doses of testosterone, I forgot what kind of ester it was, and it's not TRT. It wasn't an effective dose, right?
Yeah.
To really hit the brain and to grow muscle and all this. It was just a baby dose, but it was just enough to disable and women that are taking the birth control. That's not HRT level, is it, Ron?
The estrogen that they take?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's basically a different type, and it's a dose dependent level. But I'm not an expert on women. I leave that alone for the other guys. Sure. But on men, if you take consistently even a teeny dose of androgen, you're going to be under 15. You're going to be functionally infertile. But it's not incredible.
Yeah.
It's not.
So it almost sounds, correct me because I get confused pretty easily, but it sounds like you're saying a very small dose of testosterone would affect your fertility far worse than a larger dose.
Well, here's the thing. Wow, Ron, you're just asking a great question. So, that's true. And men that are on TRT, like TRT doses, they're infertile. That's why we have a protocol, as you know, and you're on TRT, and a guy says, "I'm on TRT, doc, but I still want to have a kid." So there's no real data for this, and this is not deadly data. This is not, except for some of these things can cause DVTs, and I've seen everything. It's rare, and it's not for muscle building and steroid use. But if a guy's on TRT, living on TRT, and he wants to maintain fertility, the anti-aging guy, and I'm not putting those guys down. I'm not going to put them down on this one. They do small doses of what, Ron? HCG. Yeah. So here's the deal on that. And if you read this is the best this is Broology 101, this one question. You read all over. Doc, if I'm on TRT, they got to give me my 250 to 400 IUs subcutaneously every 4 days, 3 or 4 days. I give it to some men because you know what? If you do, I have men on TRT that have regular children. They regularly have children. I've been doing this for 12 years. I have a guy that he's working on his 4th kid. Of course, I have to go like this, Ron. I have to go like this to him.
Yeah, can I tell you, John? My kids are grown now. I'm 48 years old. I love my wife, but if we were not together, there is not one woman on this earth, on God's earth, hot enough for me to have another child. I don't care. I'm done.
Ron,
So I don't
it's
know
good
what's up
stuff,
with these guys.
buddy. This is a man's club. Look, you did your deal. You have your kid, your dad. You made it.
Yes.
So this is amazing. It's an amazing topic. But the concern is, I'm going to answer the question for beyond all the fun stuff. The truth is, it's amazing. We don't really have any data for this, so we're winging it all. It's all anecdotal. But it is true. If you live on a little test and you give these small intermittent hits of HCG, it does trophically maintain the testicles. Not to mention, but here's the deal on this. Some men at a certain point can really get downregulated and they can get shut down. I tell them this because there's no data. And that's the bro science where, hey, if you use HCG too much or if you use too long, you're going to die. They're right. Bro scientists are right on that because it's real science. Yeah. So there's no protocols. So I typically tell guys to do this. Stay on testosterone if you need it. Keep you on the lowest dose. Heart, let's take care of your heart. Prostate, let's make sure you stay healthy. Have a great life. You want to have another kid? Okay. When you're ready to have a kid, you're a young man, you thought it out, you're ready for the kid, stop testosterone and immediately flip to HCG. And the doses depending on how much steroids you've done. If you've never done steroids, you've done little baby doses of TRT, believe those guys are there. Baby doses of they have low T for organic reasons. They're on testosterone. They're enjoying it. They feel great. Those guys could probably get away with 500 to 750 IUs every other day. There it is. If you're a steroid using man for 10 years, and you want to have a kid, you do 2,500, Ron.
Okay.
Remember every other day. Remember the doses that Rich was using?
I didn't make note of those. No.
Rich. Again, God, I knew Rich, and this is the time of openness. You got Boston Lloyd. You guys are good. Good job, Boston Lloyd. Open, all open.
Yeah.
We'll do something. Openness is the new error. That's great. Okay. Yeah. So, Rich said he would come off, and I think Rich was running 5,000 to 10,000 IUs a day.
Wow.
Oh, wait, maybe more, maybe 15. So I can't even imagine. I just don't even know. So if guys are shut down, I've gotten many men fertile. I have had to prescribe 2,000 to 2,500 just by itself. You don't want to be on testosterone, sir. You want to get the job done, right?
Yeah.
You want to get the job done. If you're pissing or getting off the pot, crapping or getting off the pot, what are you doing? So are you pissing? Boy, I need some sugar, Ron.
It's shit or get off the pot is the expression.
Shit. Shitting, pissing off the pot, pissing on the pot. So, Ron, if you want to get fertile, you really don't want to run test and HCG at the same time because it's just not effective. And I also find out that men, show me a man that's going to live, I got a few though, on little doses of TRT and little doses of HCG for years. Men just don't keep up with it because it's a pain. It's a pain in the neck. Yeah. Right?
It's a lot of work, yeah.
It's a lot of work. And who wants to be injecting with these syringes 3 times a week? The testosterone injection, frankly, it's hard enough for people to remember doing that every 5 days or twice a week or once a week, right?
Right.
Okay. So did I answer the question?
I believe so. Let's move on because we got another one about heart health, which, to me, that's a little more important in the grand scheme of things.
Thank you.
Than making babies. Babies are pretty easy to make, personally. But so this comes from Harman Cardon 1. What diagnostic methods does a doctor utilize or recommend as the best means to determine the development of and to track the development of coronary atherosclerosis? Could the doctor give a rundown on whether an ECG should be considered appropriate and sufficient for this purpose? And if not, should individuals concerned be insisting on angiogram, CT scan, and other methods of imaging in these circumstances? Yeah. Is that a piece of wood over there? What's that?
So, Ron, this is my baby. This is the best question. This is the question of the day, right? Remember, every time we're going to have a question of the day.
Yeah.
This is all I want to do is provide wellness and health and protection for people, of course, but I'm focusing on men. And it's coronary artery disease because we're doing a terrible job in this country, unfortunately, at providing adequate prevention, aggressive protection against the number one killer, which is heart disease. So, yes, sir. Here's how it's done. You go and you see a doctor and you get a history. What's your family history? How do you feel? Are you short of breath? What have you done? What's your labs look like? What's your blood pressure? You get a history and physical exam done. And then indeed, the data for diagnosing early coronary artery disease. This is, of course, versus someone who's in the emergency room who has chest pain, right? Yeah. That's a different diagnosis protocol. So this man is asking the holy grail, the most important question for me, which I do all day. These are my models I have this is my model. These are all, every day I have these models. So I do. I get guys, I put testosterone on a stick, I pull it in, and then when the guy comes in, that's my secret. And every patient of mine has known that I do that. I got you to come in because I put testosterone on a stick.
It's a carrot on a stick, yeah.
And then I get to protect. So, and then they actually care about their hearts. I found out that men actually do care about not having a heart attack.
Yeah.
In their 30s and 40s, okay, not to mention older. So you do a proper diagnosis. Every man's different, and you check something called Framingham, my med student, blood pressure, cholesterol, smoking status, diabetes, waist circumference, family history. You do all these pieces, you evaluate, and you look at labs, and you make an estimation of, are they at risk for having a heart attack in 10 years? It's okay, and it's called Framingham. There's actually a little calculator. You can go online, Framingham. You can put your little numbers in, and they're going to give you you'll get a risk right by where you live, Framingham, Massachusetts study.
I was actually born in Framingham General Hospital. That's right.
Oh my God, yeah. Framingham study.
Yeah.
So this is data, I think, for the 1960s. We still look at, and it's population-based data, and we're pulling data out. And it's the first massive registry where we're looking at people and seeing how we could save them from having a heart attack. Now, it's not perfect. So this is the question for the guy. What do you do next? Baseline ECG, an asymptomatic baseline 12-lead ECG? Answer is no. There's no data, but it doesn't mean don't do it. We do things. If you go see a cardiologist, he does an EKG. You go see an ophthalmologist, he checks your eyes.
Yeah.
If you go see an orthopedic guy, he does an X-ray of the shoulder.
Yeah.
If you're going to do this, we're going to probably start off with an EKG. It has some it has merit, but it's diagnosing stable coronary artery disease. It will not. It will not tell you if you have plaque like this. If your plaque's unstable, you're having a heart attack, and you're in the ER, and you have ST elevation, it's called a STEMI. That's called a STEMI. That's for all you nurses, all you guys, great people out there, all you people that are fighting the fight and not making any money, because there's no one getting rich being a paramedic. God bless these people. They're phenomenal first responders. I'll do a little pump out to those. Those guys are unbelievable. They're geniuses. They're listening to you right now and going, right on, Doc. No, who the hell knows what a STEMI is? They know what it is.
Yeah.
So when you're in the office and you're relaxed and you're coming to see me and you're feeling great, do you have any chest pain? No. Shortness of breath? No, not really. I'm training pretty hard. I feel pretty good. The baseline EKG is valuable for determining some aspects, but not for stable, silent coronary artery disease. So next question. The question is this. Everyone needs, after the history, and if you're 23 and you're the healthiest guy in the world, do you need an EKG? Ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a waste of resources. Am I going to send a 25 or 35-year-old man that has perfect cholesterol, blood pressure, family histories, everything's great, for a coronary artery calcium score? No. But if you're a 35-year-old man or older, you have family history of early heart disease, Your blood pressure is maybe not so good. You don't even need to have frank hypertension. Your lipids, your cholesterol panel doesn't look so good. Your HDL is a little low, not to mention very low because you're on testosterone or steroids. So if you see the picture,
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Brilliant question. Ask your doctor in any country to do it's a CT scan of the chest. It's very low radiation. It's not an angiography, so no angiography. Don't get an angiography is a lot of radiation and contrast dye. That could kill your kidneys. We don't do that's called a CT angio. There's a role for that. Not in this case. This is not a role. You don't do CT angiography for asymptomatic screening for heart disease, but you do now consider doing a calcium score. Coronary artery calcium scoring. It's a CT scan, very low radiation, 2 mammograms of radiation. We do mammograms every year for women.
Yeah.
We feel that amount of radiation will not cumulatively hurt you and causing cancer. If you do a CT angiogram, it's like 300 to 700 x-rays with the radiation.
Oof.
Why would you do it?
Mm-hmm.
I had it done on me. 10 years ago, I had it done on me because I wanted it. I wanted a CT angio. I got it. I'm at risk for lymphoma.
Oh, jeez.
Well, I'm just being honest.
From a medical test.
So you know what? Don't do medical tests you don't need.
Okay.
So calcium score. If you have enough risk factors, if this guy thinks he has enough risk factors for heart disease, you could see if you have some plaque in the artery with a very safe, effective test. It costs about $100 in this country, and it's very cheap. And you could see if you have plaque in the Ron. This is the best question. And the other aspect is the other test you should do is if you have hypertension, if you're 40-something years old, you're a man. Check and see if your left ventricle is elevated. Ron, you see I say the same thing over and over.
Yes, LVH.
But they're LVH. But yeah. Ron, if you have LV, you're a smart guy. Ron, you don't need me anymore. If you have freaking LVH and your blood pressure is not treated, or you have LVH and you have a little bit of blood pressure or prehypertension, do you realize how important and simple this is and how boring this is? Treat that. Maybe you do low dose. That's my crazy stuff. Low doses of ACE inhibitor at night. I live on all that. I mean, don't try this at home, folks. I'm living to 110, Ron. I told you that already.
I know. I can't believe it.
I'm 110. I'm changing all my policies, for the extent. But Ron, so did I answer the question, sir?
Yeah, I believe so.
EKG, yeah, but I mean, it's not going to be the best. Go for an echo. Don't do anything if you have no risk factors. But if you've got risk factors, echocardiography, coronary artery calcium scoring.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. One last question for today. The doctor's thoughts on niacin use as a cholesterol-modifying agent and its ability to better raise HDL versus statins in context of the recent failures in studies to show a statistically significant improvement when combined with statins, irrespective of elevated HDL versus statin-only groups. His opinion on low-dose statin use as a preventative measure in healthy individuals with moderate long-term CVD risk against future heart attack or heart disease development. His thoughts on vitamin K2 dietary deficiency as a contributor to coronary calcification and the potential role of K2 supplementation in the regulation and possible reversal. See recent studies on reversal of warfarin-induced calcification in murine models. This guy must be another doctor, of calcium deposition in the arteries. And finally, if he considers a combinatorial approach utilizing such drugs and supplements in the best interest of long-term steroid-using bodybuilders and other individuals who may be at high to moderate lifetime heart disease risk. Wow.
I almost forgot where it started.
Yeah, he's asking your opinion on a lot of different things.
So was the first, and then I didn't copy that one down, so I didn't look into that, but that's a great question. So is the first thing asking about the statin? What was his first part there? I'm sorry.
The first one was your thoughts on niacin use as a cholesterol.
Niacin. Let's go. Here we go. Niacin. Niacin is a vitamin. It's a derivative. It was the first anti-cholesterol medication back in the 60s or 70s, and everyone knows it's classic for increasing the HDL.
Yeah.
So niacin. So There's a drug. What he's referring to is a case probably 5 years ago or so. When men have had heart attacks and they lower LDL with statins and diet and exercise and everything else, beta blockers, ACE inhibitors, they're all the fixed medicines. There's a lot of men that still have persistently low HDLs. On paper, we're always concerned. The cardiology guys are concerned. How do you get the HDL? Quit smoking, lose weight, do cardio. But a lot of men have genetically low HDLs. So niacin and niacin derivative called niaspan, which is a long-acting matrix, which you can, and it flushes you like crazy.
Yeah.
So
I know that.
and people know that. So it increases HDL on paper. So when you look at the lab, you go, wow, sir, your HDL went from 26, now you're at 40. But does it actually end up protecting the person in a real randomized, double-blinded prospective study? The answer is no. So my thoughts on niacin are twofold. If you have heart disease and you have a low HDL and you're getting great medical care, should you start a niacin? Now, this was niaspan. It was one big trial in America and one in Europe. And the one in Europe had an extra agent on there to block the effects of the flushing. I don't think it was actually consequential in the actual mechanism of the coronary disease. Yeah. But it was a little bit of a different agent. But in the end of the day, oh my God, that company destroyed their stock.
Wow. So
niaspan, basically, because doctors like me used to use it because we liked it, what it did on paper. And then they did a head-to-head trial, and they had a lot of chutzpah to do it, and they destroyed their own company because they should have just kept it. I'm joking. Yeah. They did head-to-head trial, and no one uses it anymore. Now, that's secondary protection. If you have heart disease, you want to protect from not having another heart attack. Right. So it failed that trial. Hold on a minute. But can niacin work in the primary sense? It probably does. Okay. But there's the effects of niacin for lipid lowering, not to mention, and particular HDL elevating, it's not so strong, but it can work. And some people like it and they use it and they can tolerate it, so keep doing it. Let's move on. Statins. Yeah. Oh my Lord, statins are the holy grail. I'm just going to be honest and share stuff. I'm on 20 milligrams a day of rovastatin. My muscles are not broken down. I feel great. I'm tolerating it well. Be careful. Don't do this. See a doctor. I'm scared. I have a little calcium score 10 years ago. I am terrified of having a heart attack. It's actually terrifying to me. So I live on statins, aspirin, a little doses of ramipril, right? I do, and the vitamin D with vitamin K. So this is true. I'm trying to just hit it quick for them. Statins are brilliant drugs. They're widely proven to prevent heart attacks and to stabilize heart disease patients from having a further MI. And no one could argue me. There's no argument. There's no argument. Does it break down muscles? For most people, no. There's different types of statin. Hydrophilic, lipophilic versus hydrophilic. There's different types. There's basically simvastatin's poison. I'm trying to give you guys everything. Simvastatin, in my opinion, is poison. It breaks muscle down. I don't think it should be even out there anymore, but it's cheap and it's okay. Lipitor, generic Lipitor or atorvastatin is great. And I think for most muscle builders and people with muscle, they want to have the most muscle-friendly statin. It's Crestor and lovastatin. I'm giving secrets. These are the secrets. But your LDL, the new goal for LDL, oh my Lord, they're saying we should go less than 55, Ron. I'm just being honest. If you want, again, 110. Yeah. So statins, yes, great, but just don't start a statin. You got to see a doctor, and it's got to be titrated. You have to be a candidate for it. Maybe you can't take it. Maybe you can't tolerate it. So statins, the vitamin K is something I'm not an expert on, and when I've read the data for this, it's endothelial protection, Ron. And Ron, it looks good though. I agree. I take it.
That's the cell lining, the endothelial?
It's basically what it does. There's mechanisms where it protects the adherence of the plaque. Plaque has to bite in.
Okay.
and the mechanisms of how it protects with calcification and calcium, not to mention with vitamin D itself, and with the endocrine, the physiology of that endothelial lining with the plaque that has to adhere and then develop. It is protective on that. It is very true. I was talking to a guy this morning. Yeah, so again, but these are, you have to be careful. If you're on Coumadin, we're blocking vitamin K. You have to understand, if you need to be anticoagulated, you can get hurt with these. So Coumadin, right? So this is, people on Coumadin and vitamin K physiology, you have to be, just because something's not a medicine doesn't mean it's not toxic. But I do like the vitamin K. I like it combined with vitamin D, and you should check vitamin D levels. Some people require no vitamin D a day. Some require 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. Some people will have small bowel disease like Crohn's. I have a guy who requires 7,000 to 10,000 IUs a day. Because his absorption, the small bowel absorption, is not like it is for you and I.
That's a very large amount, is it not?
Oh, it's freaky. I take what do I take? 2,000 IUs a day of vitamin D, and I like my vitamin D levels in the 50 range somewhere. You don't want to be up to the 100. This is insane now. And that's just, these people there's so many people that are toxic on vitamin D now.
Wow.
Yeah, you got to check the stuff, guys. Everyone's a little different. And then if you're getting UV in the summertime, if you're taking all this vitamin D and you're also out in the sun, you'll be amazed how high the levels can go up. And are you going to be toxic on vitamin D and have hypercalcemia? That's from my medical student. You see it. I've seen it. But the long-term consequences of having too much toxic levels of vitamin D can cause heart disease and atrial fibrillation.
My goodness.
It's all crazy stuff, Ron.
Yeah. Well, like you said, homeostasis. The body's always trying to find balance.
But the coronary artery disease stuff, the theme of the day is you got to get evaluated. If you're a man, this is a man's place. If you're a man, and we're men, we die. There's new data that just came out. Hold on a second. This came out this week. Here it is, folks. Ron.
Mayo
Clinic. Is Mayo Proceedings. This is January 2018. Testosterone and cardiovascular health. Here's some big news today. These guys, Cleveland, Mayo, your guys down the road at the Big H at Harvard.
Yeah.
These are smart people. Okay. These are some of the smartest people in the world.
Sure.
That article, of course, I saw that immediately. I read it. Good news. They're further pushing back the FDA years ago with their increased warning that testosterone causes heart attacks, stroke, and death. They're an amazing evaluation, and I've skimmed it, probably about 10 minutes. It's very complicated reading. Is that in essence, there's no data to support it, for it, or against it. Wow. This is good news. Neutral is good, folks.
Sure.
What neutral means is this guy may get hurt and this guy may not. That's good news.
So there's no they found no direct relationship.
No.
Okay.
Coming out of the woods, Ron. We're coming out of the woods. I want everyone to know it. But if you're, again, and I'm not being a jokester, and there's certainly no blessing, and I'm not disparaging. If you take a lot of steroids and tren and steroids, and your HDL normally is 40, and your HDL is single digits, and you're going to progress the plaque, Ron. Come on, man. So if you're on TRT, stay on the lowest possible dose you can. Enjoy your life, and better living through chemistry. If you have plaque in the artery, check for it with a calcium score, echo, have a good doctor. Check your blood pressure, treat it. Try to stay as low.
Stress.
Try to keep the stress. Do everything you can. But at the end of the day, Ron, what I do in this practice that I'm so humble is going so well these days. I'm so happy. Is that have an expert pointedly treat with evidence-based guidelines each component of coronary disease and prevention. Understand blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, plaque, cholesterol, diabetes and pre-diabetes, metformin. I'm on metformin now. Metformin's incredible medication used early. I feel like $1 million. And but you have to have a doctor do this. It's incredible to use, and the data is very clear, coming out very clearly on metformin now before you're diabetic, pre-diabetic even. Incredible. Everything in the end, Ron, is protecting that endothelial. I'm an endothelius. That artery, so if you keep it supple and you keep it free of disease. So again, Ron, this is what you want. You don't want it to progress through these stages. And Ron, it does on everyone. We're just the nature of the beast here in America. Forget steroids.
Yeah.
Testosterone is getting a, thank God, it's getting a green light from the experts. It doesn't mean that you still can't get hurt if you take testosterone if you have bad genes.
Sure.
That's about it, Ron.
Well, that's been an excellent second episode, Doctor. Thank you very much. So I want to encourage everyone, if you want to learn more about the doctor and his practice, go to anabolicdoc.com or metabolicdoc.com. And again, that's where you can find his new book, America on Steroids, A Time to Heal. For Ron Harris, this has been, once again, Ask the Anabolic Doc with Dr. Thomas O'Connor. Join us next time.